welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Let's bring you up to speed with big happenings in politics. And in the polity, let's begin with our headlines. Senate rejects explanation offered by the NNPC in investigation into alleged 210 trillion naira outstanding against the state-owned oil company. One day, one trouble for the lead opposition, People's Democratic Party. A series of court orders and judgment threatens weekend's national convention of the party. Thanks again for joining us on the program where we'll give you all access pass to the big happenings in politics essentially and the policy in general. But before we get to the conversation today, let's bring you up to speed with the president receiving security chiefs and brief from them, led by the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidu Shaibu, on the security situation in the northeastern part of the country. The meeting is the first official engagement between the President and the Chief of Army Staff since his appointment and subsequent declaration as the Army Chief. In a brief interview shortly after the meeting, Lieutenant General Shaibu said he had visited the Northeast for an on-the-spot assessment of the theater operation to ascertain the level of progress being made in the fight against terrorism.
I just came to brief him on the outcome of my visit to the Northeast region and look at other security situation across the country, which was satisfactory within this period.
So quite a very short remark by the Chief of Army Staff. There's a lot expected of them, given the wake-up call. That's what I see. The Trump threats of an invasion of the military, of an invasion of his military into Nigeria against terrorists who their claim of a genocide, a Christian genocide taking place essentially in the northern part of the country, which has divided the country into whether or not it's a Christian genocide or it's a generic killing in general. But at the end of the day, we have trouble, problem, and insecurity on our hands. We can all admit that. And so that appears to have woken everybody up to do the right thing. And we hope this is going to be sustained. But let's tell you, the Senate has rejected explanation offered by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, on investigation into that alleged outstanding 210 trillion naira against the state-owned oil company, which has not been accounted for, insisting it must be refunded to the Federation accounts. The Senate Committee on Public Accounts, chaired by Aliyu Waidada, that's the Senator Waidada, which has been carrying out the probe for months, took the decision after the CEO of the NNPC, Mr. Bara Ojulari, failed to turn up at his resumed sitting at the National Assembly.
I think the most mind-boggling and disturbing of all the issues is that of 210 trillion, which constitutes 103 as accrued expenses and 107. The present management of NNPC is having difficulty in garnering the wherewithal to provide acceptable answers to this committee. It is better NNPC comes up to it so that the committee will now find ways to subpoena the former officials of NNPC
and NAPIMS.
And
NNPC go on to charge subsidy on refined product. It's not just a matter of law. That is the real word for it is fraud, monumental fraud, and the amount involved is far more than what our president is struggling to borrow from foreign countries. The fact that the GMD is anxious to cover up the fraud suggests that he may also want to continue with business as usual.
the issue of this money is an interesting one. Very strong words from some of the senators there. But it's about, initially what we heard was about discrepancy in the balance sheet. And now we're seeing or hearing about outright statements being made. But I think there is some level of understanding that we need on all sides to be able to understand whether or not 210 trillion naira is missing or unaccounted for or has not been sufficiently explained. That in itself is in another kettle of fish. But the big conversation we're having today has to do with the People's Democratic Party. That's why we said it appears that is one day, one trouble for the PDP. Their national convention is meant to hold this weekend, and there has been so much trouble ahead of this national convention. There are persons who perhaps are not wanting to hold. There are persons who are insisting it must hold. And one of the persons who took the party to court and stopped the national convention, but that decision, funny, another court of concurrent jurisdiction, and said no, they can continue, while we're trying to get around whether two courts, issues around jurisdiction of the court. Another case has come again, which was found by Sule Lamido, former governor of Jigawa State, about his not being given a level playing field to also contest in the chairmanship position. And so the court agreed with him and restrained all the monitoring elements, agencies like INEC, from covering that election. So it's a plethora. You really need to get your acts together to even remember which case is what, because there are so many when it comes to the issues around the PDP. And funny to all of this is that the Supreme Court, what the lawyers, I think they call it ceteris paribus, has ruled over and over again when it comes to political party leadership, membership. Don't count us in. But if you have issues around nomination for elections and all of that, then you bring it to us. Section 84, subsection 15. But the political parties are not listening, and sometimes you wonder what's going on in the lower court. So even our judiciary is being dragged into all of the mess of the political class. But hey, it's a democracy. Let's bring in one of our guests. Mr. George Turnah is chairman. George Turnah is the PDP South-South Secretary, Geopolitical Zone. That's the South-South Geopolitical Zone of the PDP General Secretary. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Mr. Turnah.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and good afternoon, Nigerians.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, politician. Just that you put us in a very confusing and difficult position. See how I'm almost struggling to introduce you, because everything about your party is under controversy. Who you are is a controversial issue. Who you are not is not. But that's an aside. George Turnah, thank you for coming on the program. I want to read the way the Guardian puts this whole conundrum of the People's Democratic Party. They talked about ambition, legal battle, stall PDP convention, threaten 2027 prospects. But I want to read the very first paragraph in this write-up by the people at the Guardian. The People's Democratic Party's slow-motion disintegration has reached critical mass, with stakeholders warning that personal ambition, compromised judicial intervention, strategic defection by sitting governors, and in years on Wike's determination to pull down the House have made the party's planned national Ibadan convention impossible and its 2027 prospect near non-existent. When you hear this kind of phrasing, which appears to be, is this an exaggeration or is a fair representation of what the party is going through?
Yeah, it's not. It's not nothing close to it. You agree with me that the holder of that opinion possibly might not be a politician. What is happening in the PDP is not unusual. And I tell you, for some who say PDP is dead or PDP is dying, they just appear not to understand politics. At what stage are we now as a party? We are at a juncture where we need to determine the next set of leaders for this party. And you know that in politics, we play it along interest line. And once you have people converge from different backgrounds, they all come with different interests. Now, what happened is that once we scramble and conspire and battle and struggle, for
Oh dear. Okay. I don't know. Network. Some network issue. Judge Turnah is a PDP secretary in the South-South geopolitical zone. At some point, he was the chairman, caretaker chairman or chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Bayelsa State, which is why sometimes I was saying it's difficult to introduce that. Mr. George, so continue with your thoughts. At some point, we couldn't get network obstructed. Your thoughts?
Oh, thank you. Now we are struggling and conspiring and, battling for positioning, the control of structure. The PDP holds a very big political structure in this country, and that explains the interest, and why everybody wants to be sure that your interest is not left out. So it's normal. Once we're able to close in on this process and we have a leadership emerge, of course, every other person will collapse their interest under that leadership and the party will move forward. Now, what gives us the biggest challenge is that in this whole process of struggling for control of structure within the party, there is an umpire. Now, the biggest challenge is when the umpire himself becomes an interested party, then you have a challenge. The NWC are the managers of the party. So when you have the NWC emerged in interest-based politics, while being the same umpire that will midwife the process that will lead to the emergence of a leadership for the party, then there's a challenge. For instance, we have a constitution, we have electoral act, we have the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have electoral guidelines of the party. All of these documents stipulate the processes and procedure.
Oh dear, I don't know what's going on with obstructing the thoughts of Mr. George Turnah, but I hope we can get even more as far as these issues are concerned. But I really liked him. I really wanted him to land on his thought before I throw in the next question, because the plethora of litigation is quite, as he was saying, so there are three things that guide political parties. The Constitution, which is the ground norm, Electoral Act 2022, there's also the political parties' constitution itself, and then the regulation and guidelines of political parties as promoted by INEC. Mr. George, can you hear me? Oh dear. We'll try and see whether we can establish connection with him, but I wish I could come to this screen to show you some of the issues being raised here. If, oh dear, Mr. George. So, if my producer can come to this screen, yes, I wanted to be sure I was on screen, absolutely. So if you see, I'm not sure where to stand now, but maybe here would be most appropriate. But if you see this is a court judgment. This is the first, the very first. It may not be legible, but just follow through with me. This is a court judgment. About 10 or 11 orders were given by Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, where it talked about the Honorable Court making an order that before any convention is conducted, they must make sure that they follow through the laws as established, extant law, Electoral Act 2022. As a matter of fact, they cited Section 82 of the Electoral Act, paragraphs 12 and 13 of the regulations and guidelines of political parties and all of that. This was the very first law or the judgment that came through to botch that particular exercise. I mean, the 2025 National Convention of the People's Democratic Party. And I had to bring out this because as we're speaking about this particular one, trying to get our head around this particular judgment, the pro-convention of members of the People's Democratic Party, they went to court, this time a state high court, and got an order of court saying that the convention can hold. There was an interlocutory injunction saying, okay, we'll hear the substantive case later, but for now, let the convention go on. Now, that was from the state high court. This is from the federal high court. So there's an issue about jurisdiction, whether the state high court has adjudication, has a jurisdiction to hear cases of this nature. That is under a subject of debate. While that was actually going on, the next thing we hear is that Sule Lamido had gone to court to say, look, I was not given an opportunity to be part of the electoral process. I want to be chairman of the party, but now you're denying me the opportunity to be chairman. Well, the judge, Justice Peter Lifo, I think, agreed with him that they were not fair to him. So to that extent, until the right thing is done. So the People's Democratic Party is enmeshed in a conundrum, literal conundrum, of what you call legal landmines here and back and forth. So whether or not the Saturday and Sunday, I think Saturday and Sunday, National Convention of the party will hold, even within the NWC of the People's Democratic Party, they are divided for and against. There is pro-Wike, there is anti-Wike within the same NWC. So you can see releases. So whether they will be able to walk off these murky waters is another conversation altogether. The reason why this is important, because the PDP is the lead opposition party. And since before the formation, by the formation of the People All Progressives Congress that is now in power for the last 10, going on 11 years, the PDP has lost between 11 to 12 governors to defection, not to election loss. So I can start with the 5 led by Rotimi Amechi. Then you can add Bello Matawale of Zamfara State, Dave Umahi of Ebonyi State, Ben Ayade of Cross River State, then Umoyan of Akwa Ibom, Sheriff of Borowore of Delta, and then recently we have Peter Mba and the Bayelsa State governor, about 12 governors losing. Is the party crumbling? Well, Judge Turnah said it doesn't appear so, and I'd like to hear his interesting perspective. Mr. Turnah, I was trying to get the people to the judgments of Justice James Omotosho that you were part of the plaintiff that filed the suit to say you do not want that convention to hold because you feel that the congresses that should have led to this convention has not been done and all of that. But may land on your thought before I throw in my next question.
Yeah, so thank you very much. What I was saying is that, so we felt that, there are laid down rules, that guide the conduct or the affairs of the managers of our political parties. Now, in the conduct of convention, the practice and the rules is that you commence your Congress from the ward. The ward delegates, when you elect people at the ward, they move on as delegates to elect local government officials. The ward and local government officials combine, they move up to elect at the state Congress, to elect the state leadership. Then the state leadership and the local government, government structure combine, they move up to elect the zonal leadership. Then the zonal leadership and the state leadership with all the local government chairmen alone, party chairmen, constitute the delegates to national convention. Now, our party have not been able to conclude or conduct congresses in 14 states. The NEC approved that these congresses be conducted, including South-South zonal Congress. The national chairman and the national secretary jointly wrote to INEC for the conduct of giving notice for the conduct of these congresses. For whatever reason, the national chairman alone sent another communication to INEC counseling some of the scheduled congresses. The national secretary wrote to INEC to insist that these congresses must go on. That in itself is catastrophic. And then the required 21 days notice for national convention was also yet to be given to INEC. Then to bottle it up, we as people with interest, I had interest to contest for national secretary of the party. alongside others. We started looking for the guideline. We could not find. We went to see where the publications are made in line with our rules for publication of timetable. We couldn't find. We were searching for nomination and expression of interest forms to buy. We could not find. And you can bear me witness, even you as journalists, I am very certain that you cannot tell as of today who are the aspirants for this PDP National Convention. That is because everything is shrouded in secrecy. Are you seeing any aspirant going around the country to campaign as it is usual in our party? Can you tell me any aspirant who went to the party secretary to pick nomination and expression of interest from, not to talk of returning same? At the end of the day, all of these frustrations forced us to approach the court. Because like I said, the managers of our party, who are supposed to be unbiased, are themselves the people involved and meshed in this illegality and impunity. So we went to court to seek to know whether INEC powers under the law is just to be sitting, is to register political party. After registering the political party, when you say you are a regulator, the law says you are a regulator of the political parties. Whether your duty under the law is just
Mr. Turnah, Mr. Turnah, my sincere apologies. So I had to pull up the political parties operations by INEC, which is right behind me here, as far as your regulations as to notices, who should sign what or the other. I think I should actually maybe go and get a law degree, because PDP has, if you don't know law, you may not be able to follow PDP politics. But that's an aside. What I want to find out from you, just a moment, Mr. Turnah. In addition to what you want to add is, I'm always looking for a way forward. The reason we're asking for a way forward is that while you are busy fighting and this interest wrangling, as someone will call it, you are denying the nation of a robust opposition, which is critical, fundamental as an institution to sustain democracy. Is the party not worried about that?
No, if we can't get it right in putting forward our best hands that will manage the party, you can't get a strong voice of opposition to check the government of the day and hold them to account, to deliver, for the common good and the overall good of the people. That is the stage we are, to ensure that we are able to put up our best hands as managers of our party, in the next dispensation. So the impunity of printing one form, completely jettisoning internal democracy, undemocratic practices, will not give us that voice, that strong opposition voice that will serve the nation. So what we are fighting is actually for the survival of democracy, because we are fighting to ensure internal democracy. We are fighting to ensure a strong opposition voice. That's what we are doing. So we now thought that we need the court to interpret whether INEC's function was just to register a political party and then fold your hand and watch the political parties behave anyhow. And we went to court to ask the court to interpret the Constitution of Nigeria, Electoral Act and all of it, whether INEC can exercise powers of oversight or powers of discipline and all of that. And the court have clearly given those answers in the judgment of Omotosho. And the court also said that, look, you cannot be in breach of your own rules. Democracy itself is...
So let's put facts. Mr. Turnah, because of time, so that let's put facts to it. So how many states have held, it's supposed to be World Congresses to local government congresses to all of the congresses in so how many are local government state congresses and then to zonal congresses. There was a zonal congress that was even a controversial one, the one in Calabar. So which states have not held this sequence of congresses? Which ones are in contention? Because I don't think it's generic, or is it the entire federation?
About 14 states, right? Now, notices were sent to INEC to conduct this election. And then, of course, the South East. As you have noted, even South, where valid Congress has been held, the leadership is still grandstanding. You know? So let us say 14 states and the South East, that they use their hand, the national chairman and national secretary, to communicate INEC. Now, some congresses held. Actually, in some states were like Cross River, Ebonyi, Anambra, the Southeast Zonal Congress, and a few others could not hold. Now, the irony is that even the states where those congresses held, the party have not been able to harmonize those results and transmit leadership to INEC. INEC cannot. Those congresses cannot be said to have been validly conducted until NEC approves those results and transmit leadership to INEC. And in the counter affidavit before Justice Omotosho, both the party in a counter affidavit deposed to by His Excellency Ambassador Damagu himself, and the counter affidavit deposed to INEC, all admitted that truly congresses have not been held in all of these 14 states, that though notices were issued for congresses, it held in some states, it didn't hold in some states, that even the states the congresses held, the INEC was not in receipt of the outcome of those congresses.
All right, Mr. Turnah, my apologies, totally out of time. It appears, so some days they extrapolate that this is about making sure that the PDP doesn't have a viable candidate for the next election. I don't know whether that is true or not, but at the end of the day, we'll just be watching and following to see how things develop. Most thank you, George Turnah, the Secretary of the South-South Zone of the People's Democratic Party. Wish your party the very best. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
That's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.